6:30, Monday, October 28th. This is our regular committee of the whole meeting for the Walker City Commission. I'd like to invite, we've got some friends from the Grand Rapids Parks Foundation, so I'd like to invite, I think John's going to start us off. So John, Stacy, Lauren, not sure how you want to do this, but the floor is yours, John. So I'd like to welcome Walker resident John McCracken.
Walker resident, that's right. Well, I'm super excited about this. This meeting has been about 2 months or more in the making. Good evening, everybody, and I want to thank you, Mayor Carey, and the commissioners here for inviting us to talk about the Grand Rapids Parks. You as well, Senator Heisenberg, and in spirit, Carol Wendell, but I can say she's in spirit. She acknowledged it. That's all right. And joining me are Stacy Barrett over here. He's the executive director of the Grand Rapids Parks, and Lauren Davis, who is our artist for the Grand Rapids Parks. And my name is John McCracken, and I'm on the board for the Grand Rapids Parks. The purpose of our presentation is to enlighten you all about Friends of Grand Rapids Parks, as well as discuss the opportunities that exist through this organization and things that the city of Wyoming and Granville have done as a spin-off from Friends of Grand Rapids Parks. My personal journey with Friends of Grand Rapids Parks started about 2 years ago. I heard about it, and they had a volunteer event where we planted trees between 6 and 9 foot tall on a Saturday morning. That was the first shift, 3 hours. 250 people showed up. We started out by Roberto Clemente Park, over by Cesar Chavez Boulevard, used to be Granville Avenue. But I couldn't believe the number of people. About 250 that first shift. There was another shift, 150, one day, 400 people. Organizations came out, sponsored Steel Days. I'll let you guys talk about the sponsors, but it really touched me. It was really cool. So I thought, this is so cool, and I really want to be a part of something. What can I do? So I applied got a board position for where I'm at now. It's really hard for me to capture all the good that this organization is doing. It's contagious in the best possible way. It has spread to our neighboring communities here, Granville, Wyoming, like I said. And subsequently, they've been awarded Tree City USA designation as well as Grand Rapids. They've been pulling down grants to support the planting, the maintenance, and education regarding efforts to increase tree canopy in our region as well as address invasive species. I could sit here and I talk a lot, but these guys are the experts, so what I'm going to do is turn it over to Stacy, who will tell us more about what the organization is all about.
Hey, thanks all for having me and us and John for doing this. My name is Stacy Baer, Mayor, Commissioners, State Senator. Thanks for having us. So Friends of Grand Rapids Parks, our vision, our mission, so we've changed a little bit over the last few years. I won't read that out for you. We're not in Wyoming. No, I'm just kidding. Lawrence from Wyoming. But so we started in 2008 with an economic crash in Grand Rapids. And so the city lost money for maintenance of parks and the urban forest. And so a lot of community members said, we want to make sure that our parks stay healthy, that our parks stay relevant, because we know the mental health, physical health value of parks. And I think that the data suggests that even more so now than it ever has before. And we know that people move to an area. The number one reason people move to an area if they don't have kids is for outdoor recreation access. And it's the number two reason if they do have kids, the number one reason being schools. And so one of the things at Grand Rapids is we want to figure out, in terms of Grand Rapids Parks, how do we support the entire community? Because we know that most people don't necessarily wake up and operate just off of their neighborhood boundary, right? People wake up, and we get phone calls all the time from people at Millennium Park, which is a county park. I get phone calls from people who go all the way into Grand Ravines Park. I've even gotten calls from people with questions about the state parks out on shore, because as they say, I'm like, we're friends of Grand Rapids Parks, and they say, well, I'm from Grand Rapids, so I have a question about the park. And so our friends in Ottawa County Parks have also gotten questions about our parks, and the city of Grand Rapids also has a park, Come On, right, which is in Ottawa County, because Michigan's going to make it special. So we are very much so a volunteer-led project and organization. So a lot of our work, we went through a lot of park work and park maintenance work. Then we recognized there was a lack of trees. And so a lack of trees in any neighborhood impacts the entire city because it's going to impact the air quality, stormwater management, and we know that urban forestry has also changed a lot because a lot of people have what we call tree trauma, right? People have a tree that's fallen, they have a tree that's a water seeker. Trees weren't planted necessarily, the appropriate species weren't planted after Emerald Ash Borer. But we know when we have the right tree in the right place, communities are healthier, they're happier, their physical health improves. There's a rash of statistics for that. Recently, we received a $5 million grant through the Bipartisan Inflation Reduction Act, U.S. Forest Service Community Forestry Grant, which will give us $5 million to plant 5,000 new trees throughout Grand Rapids. And some of those are in the western part of the city, right on the neighborhood. So here's some of the other metrics that you can see there. These last 2 years, we've had record years. We went from 1,200 volunteer hours in 2022. We'll close in on 4,000 this year. Between trees planted and given away this year, we'll end up being at about 1,400 trees. So before I hand it over to talk about some of the volunteering and for Lauren to talk about some of this with the spin-offs, I want to say that y'all are doing really well with your tree canopy. So there's a tool that we use, treeequityscore.org, and all that is looking at is how many trees are in a neighborhood compared to the rest of the city. And when we look at that, we think about urban forest canopy, which is a new concept for me as well. My background is in more outdoor recreation, and it's basically like if you look up in the middle of summer, how much of your view shed is covered by trees? And the goal internationally is about 30%. For a healthy city, you want to be able to see 3 trees out your window, be able to walk within 300 yards of a park, and have 30% urban forest canopy. All throughout Walker, with the exception of some of the large commercial areas, is about 40%. So you're doing really well on trees. Where you can continue to improve, and where we've seen work in Granville and Wyoming, which have different levels of that tree equity or healthy tree canopies, is also tree giveaways. And one of the big things that we're working on now, again, thinking about outdoor recreation, and where I think down the line, whether it's partnering in some sort of way, either supporting another group that kind of rises here, in the same way we've supported groups in Granville and Wyoming. We've helped write grants, we've received some grants. The federal grant allows us to work in Wyoming and other areas that have low tree equity score, not just in Grand Rapids. But we want to make sure that we're supporting community-led efforts and not that we're just elbowing around when we come to a place. And so some of the things to think about with the parks, I think there's 8 parks here in Walker, is where else do you want to go with those parks? Are those parks where you want them to be with the natural resource management and invasive species control? We have a Kent County Conservation District, but they don't always get into our city parks. And volunteers, if you haven't been out to a tree planting or to remove invasive species control, it's the best stress relief there is out there. Nothing better than getting a group of volunteers who get cooped up on a 9-to-5 job, give them some loppers, some saws, and set them to work. And they will clean your parks like nobody's business. But whether it's natural surface trails, mountain bikes, pump tracks, skate parks, those are the things that people are looking for in amenities. And we all see where the county is growing, right? I mean, you are part of the growth that is happening in this county, and so figuring out where those parks and open spaces, you're gonna see an uptick, right? Of people wanting to continue to use those parks and open spaces and in a way that allows people to have unstructured natural risk, right? I mean, we all know pickleball, I'll leave it at that. So, had I known when I took this job how much of my job would have been pickleball, and I wish that Parks and Rec would come back just for one episode. I mean, I'd love to see Leslie know about pickleball. But whatever we can do to help, we really do want to create a supportive opportunity for volunteers in Walker, partners in Walker, to, if there is a need in your parks, or if you're saying, hey, we want to do a little bit more, we need some help managing a grant, or if there's something in the parks that we'd like to see, or more volunteer engagement in the parks, or even if it's working with Kent County Conservation District and us around invasive species control in people's homes, right? Because we know a lot of times that can be an issue when it backs up to open space, right? If you have Oriental bittersweet, autumn olive, buckhorn, bossy buckhorn, some of those things that we don't really want in our neighborhoods. And so here are some of the spin-offs with that. I'll hand it over really quickly to our Director of Programs, Lauren, who's forester from the area, has been working in forestry for a long time.
Thanks so much for having us here, and thanks Stacy and John. Yeah, as you guys have been able to read probably by now, in Granville, Wyoming, we've had, they're kind of slightly different stories. As Stacy mentioned, I did grow up in Wyoming, 44th and Burlingame. It's actually an amazing glacial oak area. Like all, you guys have seen all the oak trees in Wyoming. We have a lot of oak trees. We've lost a lot of trees over time. Trees do have a lifespan, right? And so at the end of the day, we lost a lot of trees because of Dutch elm disease in the 70s, which is still a thing that happened. Then we lost a lot of trees for ash borer. Varying cities, everyone has their own ability and budget, frankly, to replace those trees. And whether it happened or not has made a stark contrast. In the city of Wyoming, it's about a 13% canopy cover. I always like to think about it, if you're looking at Google Maps, how much of it is green stuff, right? That's canopy. We're at 34% in Grand Rapids. It's the bigger city. It seems like the suburb, historically, in my head, it's like, is that backwards? And that, a lot of that has to do with those trees that were lost in public parkway, lost in public parks, lost in medians. If they didn't get replaced, they didn't have the resources to replace those trees. Well, now there's just no tree there, and that's the norm. And we'll kind of see some other things. So, literal neighbors got together who, like, I've been living in Wyoming all my life. Like, we always had trees. I want to have a tree again in front of my house. What do we have to do? And that's kind of how the Wyoming Tree Commission started. In addition, the spongy moth is what it's now referred to as, has also caused a lot of oak tree loss. So, in Wyoming, that really, we were able to it's been 8 years, frankly, and we've now gotten over 200 trees in the ground, which is, again, like compared to that Friends, we're actually putting about 1,000 trees in the ground annually. So it can sometimes be like a slow burn to get to, really making significant change all at once, but you gotta start with where you're at, right? And so Wyoming was interesting in that we now have gotten to the point where we now have a $256,000 canopy assessment being done in coordination with Grand Valley Metro Council, Davie Resource Group, and Elbro specifically. We're also partnering that. So now we're going to get even more data that suggests, hey, here's exactly what we have to do. Granville is a little different than that. We had a neighborhood forester. We have a program that's free education classes, all about anyone can come learn. There's no boundary on who's allowed to come. And we teach classes all about all the things you can do to actually do forestry work, potentially in your own yard, but also with us and elsewhere. And now it goes a long way. And we had a neighborhood forester who basically said, hey, can I just take your guys' curriculum and go start doing this in Granville? I'm like, absolutely, sing the gospel of trees. That's great. And kind of Boston Granville has kind of taken that, got the mayor on board, started their own nonprofit. And so again, it's slow rolling, but they've now applied independently and with the city's obviously with the city's permission and support, and got their own individual tree grants from organizations like Greenleaf, so they did like 75 tree planting in a weekend. So again, there's a lot of opportunities out there. So that's just a little different because Conda was like, she's run a tree spade before, so she has a huge background, she's not an accountant, but again, it's different for each, but invariably we were able to be a resource for both of those programs to kind of, and still are, to kind of keep, all right, we're here now, how can we jump up to that next level? And this is kind of referencing that funding. It's $206,000 that went to the Kent County Parks also. So the great thing about the Inflation Reduction Act funding, in addition to it being bipartisan, is that this money has gone directly to organizations like us who have the capability and technical know-how to execute large-scale tree plantings. But also, our DNR got a lot of money. They went and got it, and now we have pass-through funding from the Michigan DNR. The Michigan DNR also runs the Tree City USA program that was referenced earlier, which any city can apply for. There's a handful of check things you have to do. A lot of that you're already doing, like 1% of your budget going to tree maintenance. Well, if you have public trees, you're going to maintain them at some point. So we can get into more of that at some point. But again, it's great because we now have state money through a great urban community forestry program at the state level that is also looking to support us. We absolutely will apply for grants for them, but also folks that are trying to get off the ground. And so again, the DNR knows that we can support the folks around us and has frankly been asking us, like, hey, how can we get you guys over in Granville and over in Wyoming doing more? So that's kind of how we got to where we're at. So there's going to continue to be that funding. So again, in addition to anything that can be brought to the table from the Walker budget or other foundations out here, there is more funding for urban community forestry projects today than there ever has been in the history of America, and it's awesome. I'm really excited about it. So it can go a long way if we can obviously leverage it. Obviously, why plant trees? I'm not necessarily getting into all of this, but one thing I always like to touch on when we're thinking long-term, obviously trees are great, they're beautiful, nature's awesome. We're in Michigan, I love living here. Got to travel all over as an arborist, look at over 500,000 trees and then put measuring tape around them. And got to work in a lot of different places, and I'm just so grateful we have the canopy and the nature and the land that we get to enjoy here. The folks that have been shepherding it for years, even before we were here. It's just a really awesome place. So what can we do to be able to continue that, right? But in addition, stormwater management. It's going to save you money. The more trees you have, even if you already have a good amount of tree canopy, they hold a lot of water. You're going to spend less money on stormwater being clean because trees are going to hold a lot of water. You're going to reduce flooding events. So again, you have a lot of technical benefit. When you have tree canopy on the street, people are going to stay there longer. They're going to spend more money. We have that to support that. So again, there's a lot of benefits. Not to mention, as Stacy kind of referenced, you literally have cleaner air. So you have reduced asthma rates because you have more canopy. So again, it's like, even if you're doing all right, you're always going to be losing trees. I'm an arborist, every tree will come down at some point. It's a matter of when is the time and how can we do it safely. So even if you're not planting trees, you're always going to be losing mature canopy, especially when you're a growing city with available lots that can be developed. So you're always going to be losing some tree canopy. So again, if you're not planting, eventually you could get behind. And that's kind of how I would kind of view how it went down in Wyoming. It's like they didn't get out and prioritize replanting in the parkways because it was a cost. It wasn't a value. And at the time, if you don't have the money, yeah, it's a lot of money, but we have the available funds from a variety of sources, including foundations like the Arbor Day Foundation, who love to fund new and small projects and have an entire separate division just to do that. So that, the air quality as well as energy benefits as far as shade, obviously winter time, you can keep your place warmer by having evergreens to the side. So there's a tree solution for just about every problem when you have a society that has a lot of buildings and infrastructure. And there were a lot of mistakes made. People back in the day were not thinking about, there was grabbing a tree, putting it in the hole. They were thinking about, well, this is tall. How are we going to have to prune it around those giant secondary primaries, that are supplying, electricity to the entire city. So there's a lot of things to think about now. We know better. Right tree, right place, right purpose. Get trees in yards. There's a lot of different ways to do it and get people involved. So yeah, this is an example of some areas in Wyoming, just kind of quick. There's no requirement. So in the city of Grand Rapids, we actually have for development a 10%, basically you have to maintain a certain amount of canopy to develop a lot. So if there's 30% canopy on a lot, you need to keep it at that. But they allow you to incorporate other green elements or street trees to do that. Since they've instilled that policy in 2015, there's been literally no pushback from developers on it. Everyone's like, cool, we'll just add trees. So it's an example of that working. There's not that type of ordinance in Wyoming. There's no requirement to replace any canopy you take. And as a result, sometimes you get areas that had an entire lot and they took a lot of trees. Could some of them have been saved? Obviously, again, sometimes to develop, you have to take trees down. It's a matter of how are we compensating for that? Another kind of an example of again, maybe you have an area where most of it is well canopied, but if you did have a lot that had all ash trees or all elms, you lost all of your canopy. You could end up looking like Taft over by Taft and 28th, right over there. And again, it's just a quick example of wow, that's a big difference in quality of life, frankly. I don't want to spend time in a neighborhood that has that little canopy. It's rough out there in the summertime. So again, if something comes through, the data is important. Knowing what you have in your canopy is also significant. Getting an inventory done so you know what species you have. That's what I used to do for a living. I was traveling and using GIS to map out the city's every single tree that's their asset. That's on their property and that's under their care. So they knew what they had, where it was, and make a maintenance recommendation so they know how to take care of it, right? With that data, you know exactly what species you have. And let's say you have way too much of one species. In Grand Rapids, 40% of our canopy is maples. We don't plant a lot of maples right now. Because if something would come and take away all the maples, the same way as EAB and Lashport and Chell, well, now we've lost 40% canopy. That's crazy. That's a very significant loss. So biodiversity is important. So There are a lot of ways to collect that data. You don't necessarily need to do a full inventory of all of your trees to extrapolate some of that, but again, these are things that we're always thinking about from a development standpoint as far as forest management plans go. And again, I love planting trees, as Stacy said, it's a great time, and it's just, it always feels good. Every time we put trees, like, man, we could have been trees the whole time. It looks so good now, right? But at the same time, the mature canopy you have. So if you have a well-canopied city in a lot of areas, then we need to prioritize making sure we're taking care of those trees. Something that's kind of new in the funding of urban forestry and community forestry in general is a lot of funders are willing to fund maintenance plans that do include even up to removals of existing mature trees, as well as pruning of trees. Because if all you've ever had, if you have a tree on your property, it's a nightmare, and you can't afford an arborist to come out and take care of it, like, how do I convince you to plant a new tree? So again, there are funders out there at the federal, state level, foundation level that are, they've listened to us and said, hey, this is a problem that prevents us from getting trees in the ground. We need you to fund this, because how else will we do it? So taking care of what you have is critical. And as I said, you're always going to be losing trees, but, you know, instead of, do I have to remove the whole tree, or can I prune some of it out? You know, it does have to come down, you know, again, just what do you have? Are you monitoring the health of your trees? It's really, really critical from a long-term canopy maintenance standpoint. John, is this what you want to take over?
Sure.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
So again, I invited President Greg Rapids Parks here to talk about an opportunity that I believe exists here for fall. And I put these bullet points together. I think there's some goal here becoming a Tree City USA. It comes along with a lot of different accolades that I won't get into a lot right now because we're running out of time here pretty soon. But there are areas, it's called the CGS map. And again, my expectation is that when we're done, we'll have some phone numbers and stuff. You guys will probably want to like see what the next steps are. But there's some hot spots around the Walker area. Along the Hillpine corridor, I believe that there's some hot spots. And there's some shared boundary between Grand Rapids and Walker towards the north. But again, we can go into detail about that more. Like I said, the tree equity score that Lauren was just talking about, we've got some, like I say, some hot spots that are around 20-22% in Walker. With some guidance from friends of Grand Rapids Parks here, we can leverage a lot of the one that Lauren just talked about with education and their playbook. Getting used to harnessing volunteers, reaching out to, I know that another member on our board is he's on the board for Boy Scouts of America. And those guys are always looking for, and Girl Scouts looking ways to earn new badges and things like that. So I think that, you know, the volunteer force is here if they knew. And it's just, for me personally, my current gig is that I'm a data analyst. I sit and code a lot, but there's nothing like swinging a pig in the dirt to work out the frustration I have my own tech at this point. But we're digging these big holes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's team building. It's just very cool. So again, you can read the bullet points for yourself. Tree City to improve the community pride, boost property values, reduce costs for energy, stormwater management, erosion control. We could go on and on with this list. So what I'm going to do, here's some possible next steps. Just some suggestions. We could form a loose team at first. My commissioners are Sandy Sheen and Jessica here. And if they want to reach out to me to see what the next steps are, that'd be great. And we could have a brainstorming session, talk about what it means to be Tree City USA and how to get there. So there's the contact information, and Deborah has this, obviously. So I guess the next steps are up to you all. And you can figure out what we're going to do and where those hotspots are at. In my current board position, I can leverage our experts here. So I thank you for the time today to
Yeah, we're happy to help, and we're happy to figure out what might make sense for y'all. Obviously, we're about done planning now. The next planning season opens up in the spring. It takes 6-12 months. But we're just here as a resource for the broader community as well. And, like we said, treat anywhere does good for people everywhere.
Stacy doesn't need a microphone. Just
I'm bringing it with.
Commissioners, any feedback, questions for John, Stacy, Lauren? Have some thoughts? Yeah, please.
I think we have words in our ordinance about tree protection, but it'd be worth probably circling back to see if it is, really covered in the way that they maybe more frequently are doing it. I think that might be useful. And, I'm good with looking into this, maybe Parks and Rec could help, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just mention that I do recall, I think Rachel Dangerson, when she was in her role in engineering and talking about sustainability at the time, was had brought forward the discussion about Tree City USA and the program. So we did have a pretty good discussion about it at ordinance at one point in time. I recall there was interest, maybe not big enough at the time, but certainly it seems like it's maybe a good time to reach out. I remember it being lots of good things for us, and certainly if our friends at the Grand Parks are willing to help and be a resource for it, seems it may be a good time to take a look.
What committee would you suggest?
Well, it was ordinance at the time because I think there's an ordinance associated.
I agree with that.
That could make sense. You could also have a subcommittee specific to this.
I think Parks and Rec makes a lot.
Okay, so maybe what we can do with that is, I'd like to ask too, Commissioner Grovers is the one that had brought this, put this on the radar initially, and if could ask her to maybe take the tip of the spear in this one and head this up, so.
Well, we actually had a tree committee set up back in the 90s that was doing some great things. It just kind of sparked away. And we put a lot of trees in, and I know Megan, now that she's taken Rachel's spot, is very excited about this issue too. So if she can help to facilitate, our connection with public property right away might be a good fit.
All right. So you'll, on behalf of us, and if there are colleagues up here that would like to join in with that, we can go from there. City managers, good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you again, John, Stacy, Warren, appreciate you. And Kara, too, so thank you for keeping things up. All right, we are about, thank you. We are about a minute away from our meetings. We'll give it about that time. We'll go ahead and start our 7 o'clock meeting just a moment. Monday, October 28, 2024, 7 o'clock. This is the City of Walker City Commission regular meeting. I'd like to invite Commissioner Chase. Please deliver the invocation of the Mason Pledge of Allegiance.
Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, today the weather is changing from the warm and hot days to the cool fall days. The colors are changing, reminding us of the winter season coming. May our discussion tonight be of your will for this meeting, guiding discussions to be of your will. Watch over our city staff, especially those who are first responders for police, fire, and military. In your name, amen.
I'd like to invite everybody to stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. I'd like to please ask our clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Perry.
Present.
Commissioner Gilbert.
Present.
Commissioner Babcock. Present. Commissioner Rivers.
Present?
Commissioner Chase.
Present.
Commissioner DeShane.
Present?
Commissioner Bird.
Present. All right, next on the list is the approval of the minutes from the October 14, 2024 City Commission meeting. I thank our Mayor Pro Tem for covering that evening. Is there any discussion on said minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase?
I'll support.
Commissioner DeShane? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are passed. Thank you. Next on the list is public comment on agenda items only. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak speak on any of the agenda items that we have this evening? All right. Moving on, consent agenda. We're going to break this out a little bit. First is the expenditures of amount of $2,091,420.61 for the bills. But I'm going to ask our city engineer to actually cover us on items B and C, and we'll jump to the city manager for item D.
So item B is an amendment to an existing storm sewer easement for Falk Industrial on Northridge Drive. We typically don't see very many of these, and all of a sudden we've seen 3 of them in the last year, so it's a little bit rare, but hopefully we're getting used to it. As development is occurring on the site, they have adjusted their kind of master plan for the site, which has resulted in minor modifications to their stormwater pond. They are truly minor. They have taken place along Bristol, so you can see them from the highway. You can see all the scrubland and things that are there. We're comfortable with the changes. They still meet all the stormwater ordinance requirements. We would recommend approval.
Any questions on item B before we move on? All right.
And C is a traffic control order for the truck route along Bristol. This is a very minor modification. I think the map here really tells the story. If you remember when we approved the Bristol project, we had to raise the elevation there to allow trucks to go through in order to secure the state and federal funds. So essentially what it means is that trucks are allowed to go through that area. And what we're doing is we're extending the truck route to the northern end of the commercial and industrial property there. So that picture that shows that the truck route now extends to Sparta Sheet Metal, that's right on the money. It really helps to illustrate the situation. So that you're going to see, we hope, less trucks on the north part of Bristol, because even those trucks that are there now need to go south and get to Panel and observe the truck route when it's in place. So also a good thing.
Any questions on traffic control order 284 for city engineer?
I'll just quickly say that when I saw the title, I freaked out a little bit. Very, very glad to see that we're directing traffic the correct direction away from the very narrow two-lane road.
Anything else on TCO 284? Seeing none, I will jump to item D, and I saw Jeff Snyder from Comcast. Welcome, Jeff. I'll turn over to our city manager then.
Yeah, just to introduce it, this is a request from Comcast to renewal their franchise agreement with the city. They're one of 2 providers we have in the city, AT&T being the other one. And just ask Jeff to come up and kind of give you a quick overview of the process. But the city really doesn't have much of a choice once they submit a complete application. I'll let Jeff explain that.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. This is a standard renewal, so it's a 10-year term on the franchise agreement. The franchise agreement is essentially access to the road rights of way to build and maintain our network. We still have to go through the permitting process and everything like that, but this just gives us the right to build and maintain our network in the road right of way. There's certain provisions in there in terms of things that the city gets in return for that, the largest being the franchise fee. The city currently gets a 5% franchise fee of all cable video revenue, which we remit to the city quarterly. That's the most allowed by state law. I would assume you guys would probably keep it there, but that is a unilateral decision that you guys have. This is the renewing agreement is identical to the expiring agreement. They're regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission. There isn't, as the city manager said, there's no real negotiation that happens anymore now that the MPSC oversees these under set this current regulatory regime. So if there's any questions about the agreement, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Commissioners, any questions for Jeff? Pretty good. Excellent. Thank you. You can just slide. You have that. Just slide it in there if you want it. Okay. Thanks again for what you're doing tonight. Next on the list is. I see Chief Pelton here, hiding behind Senator Heidegger back there, and with great regret that we accept Chief Pelton's resignation and wish him the best as he goes on to the Plainfield Township corridor. And then, as we discussed in our personnel committee meeting this afternoon, appointing our police chief, Keith Mankel, as interim fire chief, to oversee both departments, not in a public safety director role, but just very specifically seeing both departments separately. I know a lot of rumors could get out there, things, Station 3 closing, some of the other nonsense on social media. Not the case here. This is an interim fire chief. While we started meeting our search committee for this, and we discussed it with personnel, but I'm open it up to the rest of the commission here for any questions or dialogue on that decision. All right, seeing none. We have 5 items on the consent agenda. If there is a motion to approve and support all 5 items, I will take it.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Grovers, any other discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Consent agenda is passed. Thank you again, Chief Melton, and then Chief Mangle for stepping up. So, next on the list is resolutions. We've got a few here. Resolution 24-736. This is the installation of streetlights in Waterford Village. The additional color from our assistant city manager.
Pretty standard amendment to the Consumers Energy contract. This will install 31 50-watt LED fixtures and poles along with their infrastructure in the new Savannah Drive and Waterford Village public streets. And the expense that you see there, the total estimated cost due of $35,147.75 will come out of project construction escrows. Some things that we get from the developer to make sure that the streetlights go in. So I did provide you folks with a marked up copy that shows the map. Even though the text is remarkably small, if you look closely, you can see the placement of those LED fixtures on the public streets. That's about it.
Commissioners, any questions on resolution 24-736?
Those are the downlights.
LED fixtures, so they won't be globes, they'll be cut off fixtures.
That overhead style or a little different than that?
No, there'll be more a box with a cutoff, and the globe is not visible.
It'll be interesting to say, we've had a lot of choppiness with that project and a lot of it around the, some of the contractors or the developer, but it is really starting to take shape out there and better as time goes on there. So happy to see the streetlights coming in there as well. If there's no other discussion on the resolution 24-736, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion. Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Babcock, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Resolution 24-736 is passed. Next on the list is 24-737, Public Act 152. It's exempting the city. This is around healthcare benefits. I should have given you the mic down there for the city managers, but any additional background around this is what we our annual ritual going through exempting the city employees from the requirements of Public Act 152 around healthcare.
Yeah, nothing to add. We usually come to you every November asking this when we're in the healthcare renewal phase, and we're grateful that you've exempted us in the past, and we're asking for that again so we can continue to be under the 20% payment requirement that the state requires. And all of our employees appreciate that as well. It's a nice benefit for the city and for the employees, so we appreciate the support of our staff.
Any discussions on this request? I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our HR director for all the hard work. We, a lot of businesses, organizations taking some extreme hits on healthcare, and you've done a great job managing that and employing some strategies. So thank you on behalf of all of us. That being said, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support on resolution 24-737.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Babcock, Commissioner Grovers, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Resolution 24-737 is passed. Next is resolution 24-738 is the bond authorizing resolution for the library project. I will turn to our city manager for a little background on this. And this is a high-level meeting, a high-level discussion at this point.
Yeah, this is a follow-up. If you recall, back at the beginning of July, we were before you when Sue was with us, I believe, and asked her, she was not here for our bond council. In regards to the library and the amounts of fund for bonding for the library. We had a lot of this robust discussion at that meeting, and the decision was to cap the limit at $20 million on the bond sale. So that's where we are. After that July 8th meeting, we had to publish it for 30 days and meet some legal requirements. And we passed that threshold
still capped at 20 million, not exceeding that with the bond requirements. Happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of information here. A lot of these addendums that are on here won't be filled out until we work through the process, but we're on at least see what a complicated process it is to do that, and time consuming, but time is of the essence. To start now, so we can hopefully sell the bonds at the beginning of January, which is a more favorable time to do that with the interest rates. So happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for our city manager on the bond authorization resolution? Commissioner Burke?
As you know, I wasn't real thrilled with the amount. We're talking 25 at one point, like 20 now. But I did sit down and like the city manager, probably about a month ago, go over kind of our financial position, the history of our bonds over the years, and how we sort of work through them. And it really helped me feel a lot better about this. Honestly, I appreciate the time you spent with me. I'm still a little concerned about the bubble we might have in public safety. Whether that this year, in a few years, there might be another thing we got to worry about. But you know, this is going to be a marquee project for the city. It's going to be a big deal for the city, and I'm going to move forward.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Seeing, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval on resolution 24-738.
So moved.
Commissioner Brewers. Mr. Babcock. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Resolution 24-738 is passed. Next is resolution 24-739. I'll turn to our city engineer just a second for a little more background, but this is affirming the utilization of the city library steering committee and setting up processes to be followed. It's basically eliminating some of the red tape that sometimes you have to go through a time-sensitive project like this. Any further background that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think this resolution is really set up to help delegate to the steering committee the ability to work through all the details. And those details are, as an example, selecting 30 different specialty trades to work on the project. So that's your earthwork person, your mechanical person, your electrical person, all those bids that are currently under the purview of Owens and Kimball. They're going to be sent back, if this resolution is passed, to the steering committee so that we can work through the details of the various bids, make sure that interviews have been done, make sure that they're a responsible, competent contractor. We just don't want to burden the city commission and that schedule with 30 more of those reviews. And it does make a lot of sense to do this at staff level. So that's the way that the resolution is put together. As an example, we did have our first subcontractor bid. It was called the site civil package or the excavation package. An example of that is shown in the package, just to kind of bring you up to speed to how that's going to work. It was put together by Bob Byrne, who's in the audience here from OAK, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. They did interview the low bidder and made sure that everything was good with them. The low bidder was Fisher Idema, and they had very good work experience working on a lot of school projects with OAK. And the way that the numbers work out there, we're in really good shape on the budget. We're hoping to save a little bit of money here and there. Just in that one item, we saved $456,000. So that is a fantastic start. I'm really happy with that. Inside of that document, you see a lot of the guts of this, dealing with the construction manager and the general conditions and all the things that are included and all that. And you'll see a healthy contingency as well. So we're trying to make sure that extra money's in there in case we run into something we're not expecting. You never know with an old orchard or an old farm site. We did a lot of soil borings, but you can't test every spot. And so we want to be ready in case something does come up, and we feel pretty good about that. So the next items that are going to be reviewed are the mechanical systems, electrical, structural steel, concrete, masonry, elevators, and then interior demolition of the existing building. And really those are all set up because they're important to get at early. The steel is a great example. We want to get the steel ordered as quick as possible so we don't run into a delay and then all of a sudden the site sits empty with no work going on for a month or two at a time. And OAK's done a great job with that. So with that, I think Bob and I are both here to answer questions. I think we're looking at bringing a winter update back to the City Commission as well so that we can continue to give you good progress reports.
Great, thank you, Scott. Commissioners, any questions for Scott? All right, seeing, hearing none, I entertain a motion for approval on resolution 24-79.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Chase.
Support.
Commissioner Babcock. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution 24-739 is passed. Next is the second reading of ordinance 24-676, which is to enact a new chapter 78, article 5 of the Code of Ordinances for the City of Walker entitled Kingsbury Apartments Payment in lieu of Taxes. Is there any questions on the second reading of this ordinance? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion. Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Gilbert, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ordinance 24-676 is official. Thank you. Next on the list is other public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Is there anyone wishing to speak on either item? Chief Calvin, welcome up.
Hello there. First, I want to say for those commissioners that were here in June of 2019, took a chance. Did well. We started on a path of transformational change with our fire department, and we succeeded with that. We built a one-team concept that has succeeded greatly in a lot of big and major fires in our city. I want to thank this commission for supporting us with the best implements out there. That aerial platform back in 2020, we've had towards the hard time. It was the right choice, and thank you for making that decision. We had that other aerial to replace our aging 75-foot aerial stick. It's going to be here hopefully in December of 2025. This commission has really helped us afford more full-time personnel more than we've ever had before. It helps supplement the losses we've experienced with our payment call. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our department and our city. I know it's a hard job being the commission, not only just saying what we can do for the fire department, but what we do for our city to make it greater. This is a great place to live. We have an awesome community, and I just want to thank you for taking a chance on me. It's been an honor serving as your fire chief. We have an excellent staff that has a lot of care and compassion and passion to go out there and turn that bell tolls to answer the call. Great things. I've been fortunate to work with a crew that helped save 5 people out of the bus town. That building's now gone, but it's rebuilt. We've had some huge fires that our team has stepped up and has performed excellently through the training, through the help of our team. We built a one-team concept there, and I really want to thank Frank and Daryl for when I started this job. When you think you work for the fire chief position, there's a lot to learn, and they were very instrumental in giving me hints and guidance along the way. So thank you very much for the guidance and help. Mr. Mayor, one of the best comments to me during one of my reviews since I even been HR, my newest best friend. So my new best friend, Shannon Bales, has been instrumental in helping me develop as a leader from an HR perspective. So thank you for that. We've got that guidance there. It's got to the point where I had to ask her for everything to can I run something by you, Shannon? Oh, God. That's been a great relationship, so thank you very much for this. We've now come to the point where we're parting ways. I will do all I can to help Chief Nangle in the transition going forward. I hope only the best for the city and our department. I just wanted to have this opportunity to say thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve, and I'm going to miss all my personal.
Thank you, Chief Calvin. As we spoke at the personnel committee meeting, we had talked about the complexities of the things that we're wrestling with right now and trying to get where we're going. So where you have brought us to, where you're leaving the department, I think that true measurement of leaders always did you leave it better than you started. You sure as hell left it better than when you started. So I say thank you on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, can you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jake Oaks. I live at 4664 Commerce. I appreciate you saying here to make sure that it's not a public safety director, because we tried that. Miserable failure. What I'm curious about is what do you mean the misinformation about Station 3 not being closed? Chief Butler, if there was a car crash right now at Alpine Line, where would those right be coming? Station 1. How long will it take for them to get there?
15 minutes.
Okay, so why not Station 3? Closest, right there at Bristol.
Don't want to staff to support that station.
Okay. So it's not closed? Or is it only open during the day? Because not having staff sounds like it's closed.
Any other comment from the public? Agenda or non-agenda items? All right. Seeing none, before we move on to our Commissioner City Manager comments, I'd like to welcome back our Senator, former Mayor Beck. Welcome back home. And appreciate the job you're doing for us. And I know Senator Isaac has assured us, we were talking about the Parks presentation a little bit earlier, which he's very passionately supportive when he was here, and then as he's gone to Lansing and has talked about helping us advocate down in Lansing for some of that funding as well when we get that plan strategized around. So I want to thank you again for being here and then helping us with that as well. So I'm going to start with our city manager down to the left and work our way to the right.
All right, just a couple things. Scott will probably hit on this too, November 6th. You've all heard, we'll be getting an invitation for the groundbreaking at the library at 1 p.m. on the 6th. So coming up in another week. The city commission meeting.
Sorry, is it the 6th? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, November 6th. November 6th at 1. And then for the, on the agenda that Debbie put on there was for the rescheduling of the November 11th City Commission meeting, which was scheduled for Veterans Day, which will close that day, so it's shifting that meeting to the 18th. So I think there are a couple of commissioners that were not here last time, we were kind of waiting for the confirmation. I think everybody was on board for that, so we will do that. And then just to mention, Jason Frank, Sergeant Frank's retirement coffee is Thursday at 3 o'clock right up here. So I think you all have an invitation for that as well. That's all I have. Thank you.
We did not. I'll make sure that they help get that out. I think that just came out. Yeah. There too, so I'll take that as an action item. All right. Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Shane, Commissioner Grovers.
Actually, I do have something just quick to share.
Sure.
I don't know a lot of ways. So, there's a little town in Florida that I like to visit. It's called Tualatin. And it's just very quaint and tree-lined, and oddly enough, I got this little email yesterday, and I happened to read it once. It's just a tourism kind of thing that I get. Anyways, so in Tualatin, there are majestic oak trees that line the streets everywhere, and it is a result of a planting project in the city's formative years. The residents of Tualatin received a 50-cent tax break for every oak sapling they planted that made it through the year. There were so many trees planted after the first year that the city couldn't pay its bills and soon had to repeal the law. So now, 100 years later, however many it's been, we're still enjoying their incentive at that point. However, I hope that we can all still pay our bills. But the one thing about Friends of the Parks and the funding they have going right now is they do have a lot of resources, and we wouldn't have to tap into any of our revenue that we would not have to. They have a lot of money available, and it does not actually have to be spent for several years. So there's time to put things in place, or at least looking more stuff. Also, yesterday I worked the early election voting, and it was a very successful day, a long day, very, very busy. There was probably not 5 minutes during the whole day where there wasn't at least 1 or 2 people voting. So we were not expecting that, but thrilled to have that happen.
Yeah, there was, I think yesterday, a little over 100. Yeah, 200 some. Sorry, bro. All right, thank you, Commissioner Adcock.
Just want to say thanks to Chief Felton for your patience in teaching me everything I need to know about the fire department. I appreciate appreciate your time and energy, and wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Commissioner Gilbert?
I'll just say great group of folks here this evening. Thanks all for coming out. Thank you, Chief Mangle, for stepping up to help lead the department through the transition. Chief Belton, thank you so much for everything you've done. I've said this a number of times to colleagues here on the commission throughout the past few years, and knowing as many fire chiefs as I do through the different things that I've done, I think there's no one I can think of who would have done a better job serving through the challenging conditions that we've had to go through this department. So thank you very much for all you've done. I am very sad to see you go, as I feel the department is genuinely headed in the right direction for all the work you've done. We'll work through it and appreciate your help along the way.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yeah, just a quick election update. As you know, early voting did start on Saturday. We grossly underestimated what voter turnout would be, which is a good problem to have. Very pleased with the amount of people that have turned out for the early voting. On the first day, we did see 446 voters move through. So it was almost 5 times what we had in the entirety of August. So it was awesome. As of today, there were 1,001 voters so far in Walker that have utilized early voting. So it's been really great this time. Again, all election information can be found on the city's website or the state's website at mi.gov/. One more week to go, and election day is next Tuesday. We open 7 a.m. to 8 at all of the precinct polls.
Great job this week in the animal workers. City Engineer?
Looking forward to a very politically peaceful day on November 6th when we celebrate the groundbreaking for the library.
I like your assumption. All right, last thing, a couple of things. Thank you for those of us that were able to join us at the Urban Guide for Alice Tekis today, and great family on the west side here, and happy to see them having success. It is really good food and outstanding service. You've not been there yet. Please make time to get out there. Second is, I believe it's Thursday, I'll be delivering the Haunted Home winner. Thursday afternoon, it is the Mishka family at 3724 Sunrise Lane. I was told that a lot of votes. I actually drove when I got to about 3/4 of the houses before I had to jump on a business trip, and was absolutely floored at the amount. This is the best year by far. Not only the amount of homes that's doing it, but the detail of homes, but the Mishkas did, I mean, an outstanding job. That's a hard choice to pick a winner, so I'm glad I didn't have to do it. So anyway, if you get a chance to drive by there, drop off the award for them on Thursday, right before Sergeant Frank's ceremony. And then last thing, tomorrow night, we begin our first session of the Mayor's Youth Academy, which is from the Youth Commission at 6 o'clock in the DPW conference room. Emily has the schedule going forward. If you would like to join any and all, you're always welcome with it. We have a group of 6 high school students, and I love the intimacy of that size group, and they're from different high schools, so I'm looking forward to that. The curriculum has been set for a while. It was just updated over the weekend, and really excited about the next generation of leaders that we're going to be impacting. So thank you again for working with me and re-strategizing what the focus is going to be with that, what we're trying to accomplish. So that is all I had on my list. Without further ado, entertain a motion for adjournment and support, please.
Some
Support.
Commissioner Gilbert, Commissioner Chase. All those in favor, please say aye.